Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at the questions for completing the square. So again, to find c, I will take 10 divided by 2 and square it because the number in front of x squared is 1. So this is 5 squared, which is 25. So c is equal to 25. I will take again, so c is equal to 5 over 2, and then I square it. Because I cannot reduce, this is just 25 over 4. So I distribute the square to both the numerator and the denominator. So c is 25 over 4. Again, c is equal to negative 14 over 2 and then squared. So this is 7 squared, which is 49. So c is equal to 49. Here again, so c is equal to negative 9 over 2, the quantity squared. I cannot reduce, so I distribute the square to both the top and the bottom, and I get 81 over 4. 24 now, so I have c is equal to 24 over 2, the quantity squared. So I get 12 squared, which is 144. So c is equal to 144. And then here the b value is negative 1. So then c is equal to negative 1 over 2, and then we are squaring it, so I get a positive 1/4. So c is equal to 1/4. Okay? We're skipping all the ones on this page. We're going to number 11. So to solve this by completing the square, I'm going to first move my 13 to the right-hand side. And then I have x squared minus 4x. And then I have plus a negative 4 over 2, the quantity squared, is equal to 13 plus a negative 4 over 2, the quantity squared. So then I get x squared minus 4x plus 4 is equal to 13 plus 4. So x squared minus 4x plus 4 is equal to 17. So then again, I'm factoring two numbers that multiply to give me 4, that add to give me negative 4 is negative 2 and negative 2. So this is x minus 2, the quantity squared, is equal to 17. I square root both sides of my equation. So then when I square root, I get plus or minus the square root of 17. So I have x minus 2 is equal to plus or minus root 17. So x is equal to 2 plus or minus root 17. So x is 2 plus or minus the square root of 17. And I get to leave these because I don't have a perfect, square root or anything like that. Okay, so 12. X squared minus 8x is equal to 65. So I added 65 to both sides. So I have x squared minus 8x. I take half of my negative 8. So negative 8 over 2, and I'm squaring it. And I'm just looking at that because there's no coefficient other than 1 in front of my x squared. So this is 65. And then I am adding negative 8 over 2, the quantity squared. So then I'm left with x squared minus 8x plus 16 is equal to 65 plus 16. So then, again, two numbers that multiply to give me 16 that add to give me negative 8 are negative 4 and negative 4. So this is x minus 4, the quantity squared, is equal to 81. So now I'm going to square root both sides. And I get a plus or, oh, wow. That was weird. Okay, so I get a plus. Let's just erase this whole thing. So square root both sides. Oh, just keeps, my pencil keeps skipping right now. X minus 4, the quantity squared, plus or minus the square root of 81. Okay, so now I have x minus 4 is equal to plus or minus 9. So now this is where I separate this off because I did get a whole number. So x minus 4 is equal to a positive 9. And then I have x minus 4 is equal to a negative 9. So then I add 4 to both sides. So I get x is equal to 13. Add 4 to both sides, and I get x is equal to negative 5. So x is equal to negative 5 or 13. Okay. To 15, x squared minus 4x is equal to negative 12. So x squared minus 4x. And then I am adding negative 4 over to the quantity squared. So then I get this is equal to negative 12 plus negative 4 over to the quantity squared. So then I get x squared minus 4x plus 4 is equal to negative 12 plus 4. So I get, just kidding. I have here negative 4 and 4, so negative 2 and negative 2. So x minus 2, the quantity squared, is equal to negative 8. Now when I square root both sides, now I'm going to get like a weird imaginary. So I have x minus 2, the quantity squared, is equal to plus or minus the square root of negative 8. So I get x minus 2 is equal to plus or minus the square root of negative 8. So now, because I have an imaginary number, because I have the square root of a negative number, I have x minus 2 is equal to plus or minus I root 8. And then remember, 8 is 2 and 4, 2 and 2. So there is a pair of 2's. So x minus 2 is equal to plus or minus I root 4 root 2. So x minus 2 is equal to plus or minus 2I root 2. So now I add 2. There's a lot of 2's, man. So 2 plus or minus, oh wow, my pencil is struggling right now. X is equal to 2 plus or minus 2I root 2. There's a lot of 2's in this one. It's kind of annoying. 2I root 2. Okay. All right. So now, 16. So subtract 3. Just kidding. Minus 2x is equal to negative 3. So then I have x squared minus 2x. And then I'm adding negative 2 over 2 squared to both sides. So I have negative 3 here, adding negative 2 over 2 squared. So then I get x squared minus 2x plus 1 is equal to negative 3 plus 1. And so then I have negative 2 on the top, 1 on the bottom, negative 1 and negative 1. So x minus 1, the quantity squared, is equal to negative 2. And then I square root both sides. Just kidding. Square root both sides. Square root both sides, plus or minus square root of negative 2. So I have x minus 1 is equal to plus or minus I root 2. And then I don't have to simplify the underneath the root. So I get add 1 to both sides, 1 plus or minus I root 2. 1 plus or minus I root 2. Okay, so now, nothing here. Nothing here. 23. Is that it? Almost. I think 27 and 29, and that's it. Yeah. Okay. So now, again, x squared minus 2x is equal to negative 4. So x squared minus 2x, and then plus negative 2 over 2, the quantity squared, is equal to negative 4 plus negative 2 over 2, the quantity squared. So I have x squared minus 2x plus 1 is equal to negative 4 plus 1. So this factors to an x minus 1, the quantity squared. Again, my negative 2 on the top, my 1 on the bottom, so negative 1 and negative 1. So this is negative 3. Square root both sides. So that I get x, a weirdo x. So x minus 1 is equal to plus or minus I root 3. So add 1 to both sides. So 1 plus or minus I root 3. Okay. 24 x squared plus 2x is equal to 5. So then x squared plus 2x plus 2 over 2 squared is equal to 5 plus 2 over 2 squared. So then I get x squared plus 2x plus 1 is equal to 6. And then again, two numbers that multiply to give me 1 that add to give me 2 are 1 and 1. So this is x plus 1, the quantity squared, is equal to 6. Square root both sides. And I can't simplify the square root of 6, so I have x plus 1 is equal to plus or minus root 6. So x is negative 1 plus or minus root 6. Okay, and now we are going to get to questions where the number in front of x squared is not 1. It could be negative 1, it could be a different number. So the first thing we do is we move my... Oops, just kidding. We move my 5 to the other side. Okay. Then I'm going to factor out a negative 1. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take half my b term and I'm going to square it. So I have plus 8 over 2 the quantity squared. And this is equal to 5. And then I have plus negative on the outside, so there's a negative sign on the outside, 8 over 2 the quantity squared. So that's what I'm adding to the right side of the equation. So then I'm left with negative x squared plus 8x, and then I'll show this step in a different color still, plus 16 is equal to 5, and then technically it is minus 16. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and factor. So I should not do that in that color. Let's change back colors. Negative x plus 4, the quantity squared. And remember, the 4 comes from two numbers that multiply to give me 16 that add to give me 8 are 4 and 4. That's where that x plus 4 comes from. Okay, and then this is negative negative 11. Okay, so now I'm going to multiply both sides of the equation by negative 1. So I have x plus 4, the quantity squared, is equal to positive 11. And then I will square root. Squared is equal to plus or minus root 11. And then, yay, we don't have to simplify. X plus 4 is equal to plus or minus root 11. So then I get x is equal to negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 11. Okay, so now that's 25. So now 27 and then 29. Almost done. Okay, so now the number is different in front of x squared. So I have 2x squared plus 4x, and I still move my 3 to the other side. And then I factor out a 2. So x squared plus 2x is equal to negative 3. And then I complete my square. X squared plus 2x. Then I take half of my b term, which is 2 over 2. And I'm squaring it, and I should make my parentheses all the same color because it's going to bother me. Okay, and then is equal to negative 3, and then it is plus my 2 times my 2 over 2, the quantity squared. Okay, so it's the 2 outside in front of the parentheses, multiplied by what's in green, and added to both sides of the equation. So now I have 2x squared plus 2x plus 1 is equal to negative 3 plus 2. And then now, again, I cannot write an eraser. Okay. 2 on top, 1 on the bottom. Two numbers that multiply to give me 1 that add to give me 2 are 1 and 1. So this is 2x plus 1, the quantity squared, is equal to a very sad number, negative 1. Again, we go ahead and we Divide by 2 first, so x plus 1, the quantity squared, is equal to negative 1 over 2, and then we have to square root, which is a very sad situation. Plus or minus the square root of negative 1/2. So that negative means that I have an imaginary number, so x plus 1 is equal to plus or minus the square root, oh, just kidding, plus or minus I root 1/2. We will talk about this a little bit later in more in depth, but really what happens is plus or minus I. It's technically 1 in the root 1 over root 2, so I can separate them out. And the square root of 1 is 1. So I have x plus 1 is equal to plus or minus I times 1 over root 2, which looks like a big, huge mess. So we're going to clean this up. I'll show you how to clean it up. X plus 1 is equal to, so technically it is plus or minus 1 over root 2I, and then I subtract 1. So negative 1 plus or minus 1 over root 2I. And we'll talk about what to do with the square roots when we actually do this square root section. So negative 1 plus or minus 1 over root 2I. Okay, that's 27, 29. Hopefully 29 is not as bad as 27. Okay. Well, at least the 1's already on the other side. That helps me. So factor out of 3, x squared plus 2x is equal to 1. So 3 times x squared plus 2x, and then we're going to add somebody. We're going to add 2 over 2, the quantity squared. And then this is equal to 1 plus 3 times 2 over 2, the quantity squared. So now what I'm left with is 3x squared plus 2x plus 1 is equal to 1 plus 3. So then 3 times x squared plus 2x plus 1 is equal to 4. Divide both sides by 3, so I'm left with x squared plus 2x plus 1 is equal to 4 over 3. So now again, two numbers that multiply to give me 1 that add to give me 2 are 1 and 1. So this is x plus 1, the quantity squared, is equal to 4/3. Now I'm going to square root both sides. Plus or minus the square root of 4/3. And just like I just did the other one, my square root of 4/3 can be separated. So this is x plus 1 is equal to this plus or minus the square root of 4 over the square root of 3. So x plus 1 is equal to plus or minus 2 over root 3. So then I just have to subtract 1 from both sides. And I get x is equal to negative 1 plus or minus 2 the square root of 3. Okay, probably the most important thing, because it can get like really like complicated, right? So 29 and 27, super complicated, you know. If it wasn't as complicated, you know, or had another number in front of it like 25 did, like if it had the number 2 in front, that's not terrible, like 27 and 29, I want you guys to be able to do that. But in the end, you know, this whole completing the square idea, you know, you can solve by completing the square, you could solve by the quadratic formula, or you could solve by factoring. So unless I specifically ask you to solve by completing the square, you don't have to. And probably the most important thing I can get you guys to do in this section is at least figure out what the value is of c so that you could actually factor into a perfect square. So that's probably the most important thing to me, okay? And that is it for this section.